Welcome to the Legacy Cultivators Podcast, the podcast where visionary changemakers share how they're building well-resourced legacies fueled by purpose, alignment, and communal care. Through these conversations, we explore the sacred dance of regenerative ecosystems, where remembrance, holistic entrepreneurship, creativity, and wealth converge. Because true legacy lives in the path that we walk together, a sacred act of weaving memory, resources, and the wisdoms that bring us home. I'm your host, Love Soleil. Now let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of the Legacy Cultivators Podcast. Today I'm really excited because we have a special guest with us, Darnell Mayberry. He is the founder of Money Talks. And later, we're going to also have a really, really special guest. I'm actually so excited about this conversation. He is going to bring on his daughter, Parker, and we are talking all about moolah and the financial wellness journey that they have both been on together. So we're going to get into some really special conversation. This is going to be a three different generations conversation, which is really beautiful. So without further ado, Darnell, if you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your journey into financial wellness and bringing in Parker as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Love, for having us. We're very excited to be here. This is Parker's first podcast, so she's excited to join as well. And I'm excited to be here as well. My name is Darnell Mayberry. I am a father, investor, storyteller, and creator of Money Talks. And I started the company for my daughter, Parker. She's 11 at the time. I believe she was 8 or 9 when I started. And so it was all created with her in mind to teach her about money, to teach her about financial literacy and financial wellness, because so much of what we do revolves around money, and so much of her life is going to uh, have to deal with money. It just was obvious to me to get her off to an early start of understanding the topic at an in depth level so that she can have a head start in life, so she can have an advantage or leg up in everything that she's going to do, whether it's buying a car, buying a home, going out shopping, going out and spending time with her friends. All of these different things revolve around money. So everything that we're doing is having these basic everyday money talks in our home with each other so that she gets an understanding of financial literacy and financial wellness.
That's powerful because I think about if I, if my dad had brought me on earlier and was like, "Hey, let's talk about money." It's like,
Mhm.
wow, so I'm envisioning when she gets to my age, I'm 28. I'm envisioning how incredible she's going to be. I mean, she's going to be wealthy. Like, there's no other way to put it. Cuz she already knows so much and she's 11, so I can only imagine. So that's really exciting. And so I'm curious to hear about what got you kind of like you didn't grow up wealthy from our conversations but previously, so what made you think like, okay, like I need to figure out this money thing? How do I put myself in a better position, especially now that I have a daughter? I'd love to hear about that journey to this point.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think a lot of our money stories start in childhood. The things that we're exposed to, the things that we're not exposed to. I was raised by a single mother of 4 children who didn't have a lot of time for money talks. She was busy providing, she was busy working, doing everything she could to advance this family, and she had to do it on her own. And so we didn't have a lot of resources. We didn't have a lot of um, material things that some maybe other families had. And as a kid, you start to get exposed to things, and you realize that other people are living differently than you are. And so I've always been fascinated by that difference, and why some people could have nice cars, and maybe we were taking the bus, things like that. Why some people had nice houses and lived in different neighborhoods, and we lived in a smaller community that wasn't affluent by any means. So those are all things that from childhood I got to experience and see the difference between the haves and the have-nots. And as I got older and became a man and had my daughter Parker, and started to see the different ways that money was working in my life, it just became so obvious that so much of my peace, so much of my ability to do the things that I wanted to do required money. And so I needed to get her off to a good start. And that was the whole goal. But no, I did not come from money. And this was something that I had to learn. And in a lot of cases, love, I had to learn it the hard way. So a lot of my desire is to keep, my family from having to go through a lot of the hardships that I went through.
Yeah, and that is honestly powerful because part of the reason why I was really excited to bring you on too is because a lot of the times people feel like it's out of reach, especially in our community. Like, oh, like money is hard. Like, I feel uncomfortable talking about it. I don't even know where to start. And what really interested me about you and Money Talks and the work that you and Parker are doing is the fact that it's not about knowing everything. It's not about having it all figured out. It's about the journey, the growth that you experience during the journey, and what that teaches you, and just sharing that process with the world, which is really cool because you do that in Money Talks. So I'm just curious about what are some kind of like internal work that you had to do, psychological work that you had to do to get to the point of being able to be like, hey, like, I want to be financially literate. I want better for my family. I want better for myself. And I want to get into investing. Like, there's a lot of subconscious and trauma programming that we've had in the past. So it's like, what can people do? What have you done to get to this point?
Yeah, it was a burning desire for me to want more for myself, for my family, and being so curious about it, money, how it works, how to make it, how to, um, have abundance and a pursuit of riches. And that might sound sort of maybe bad to some people, uh,
Talk about we need
but I have just vivid images of being here in Chicago and going, down Lakeshore Drive and seeing people on boats out on Lake Michigan, and I'm saying to myself, how are they out there on a Tuesday at noon? And I'm busy working, and if that's possible for them, then surely it's possible for me. And so that burning desire for me to figure out what people are doing and how they're able to live a completely different lifestyle than most people I know, that drove me to really dive deep into learning about money and studying it and understanding how I could maximize my resources. And from there, love, I just started reading a lot of books about money. I started reading everything from the psychology of money to the Millionaire Next Door, Atomic Habits. All of these things that would shape my behaviors, my mindset, and mentality when it came to my approach to money, because I had to realize that a lot of my behaviors were not the best. And once I realized that, it became easier to address them. I talk about money talks being about earning, spending, saving, and investing. And that's four different categories that if you're not taught or if you have no awareness or knowledge of those things, you won't know what to do. And I was an adult, in my late 30s before I figured out that I needed to invest my money and not just live on one paycheck. So this goes back to a lot of the hardships that I've had to go through, real life experience that I had to accrue before understanding the importance of this topic. And if I could do that with my child well before she's a teenager, I felt like she was going to be ahead of me so much farther along than I ever will be. And that she can then instill this into her children and others throughout the world as she feels comfortable sharing all the things that she's learning early. But it was a journey for me, and it's still a journey. I've never stopped learning. I'm always learning about money. I don't watch TV. I don't listen to music. I don't watch movies. My sole focus is learning and growing in this area. And that took a lot of work to get to. And then, like you said, it started with the mentality.
I love that. And it kind of basically reminds me of like the difference too with going from, a place in life that you might not like so much to like getting to that next level of what you're looking for and wanting for yourself is really in the habits, the mindset and the habits that you create. Because the mindset to me is the first step. Like you can be aware and feel like, hey, I want better for myself. But if you don't take the step and the action to create habits around that, it's like that's just you're just selling yourself short. And so you said something previously that I was like, oh, we got to talk about this because I feel like also in our communities, people are uncomfortable with saying, I want to be wealthy. And it's like, nah, like we gotta affirm what we want and we can desire and deserve and have greater visions for ourselves. And I think there's this notion that because we've seen money used in such extractive ways, like especially living in the United States, we are in a capitalistic society. I think there comes this like people look at money as like, oh, it's going to be used for extractive purposes, or oh, like wealth is you like people know they need money to buy goods and services, but then they think wealth means that it has to be extractive. And so something that's part of also why I want to continue to talk about money too is because it's like we have to see that there's other ways, having wealth is not about it being extractive because really money is just a tool. So regardless, it's really the person that makes it extractive, not the money itself. Money has no bias. And so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this kind of stigma around wanting to be wealthy and just any thoughts you have around that of like being able to not be uncomfortable because you were literally like, I know it might sound bad, but it's like, why is that? No, it's not bad. And so I'm just curious to kind of hear your thoughts around that a bit.
Yeah, and it's a great point, love, because I've had a couple of different interactions in the last several weeks, and I wrote about it at Money Talks. The first one, I was in Memphis, Tennessee, for work, and I was at a place, a fish restaurant, a seafood restaurant, and the waiter, she noticed the merch, and she asked me what it was, and I told her essentially it's a guide to get rich. I told her some other things, but that's where I lost her. And she says, "Oh, I don't want to be rich." And I'm thinking, hmm, so you'd rather work at the Flying Fish for the rest of your life? And nothing's wrong with working at the Flying Fish. But if you're saying that you'd rather work at the Flying Fish as opposed to being retired and spending your time with your family doing what you want whenever you want, that's where I have to think about what happened in this person's past or in their experiences or in their definition of money or rich, the word rich or wealth, that makes them feel that way. And I do think that it's a lot of psychological beliefs, maybe that money is evil, money is the root of all evil. We grow up with these beliefs that are passed down to us. We grow up with these beliefs that are passed down to us, and we adopt them for ourselves without sometimes taking the time to stop and think, is this truly the right way or is this truly the right approach for me? And so I've always wanted money. I've always looked at money as a tool to do what I want to do with who I want to do it with when I want to do it. And so I've always known that the more that I have, the more I can do for my family and others. And not everyone sees it that way, and that's okay. Everyone's relationship with money is different, and I understand that. Why we started a company called Money Talks is because, as Parker named it, Money Talks, these are the money talks that we're having in our home so that the conversation is not uncomfortable, so that we can have some confidence with this topic and an understanding of money so that we're not fearful of it, so that we aren't living with a scarcity mindset and all of these things that sometimes get passed down. So I feel like, again, going from childhood to society, things that we see in everyday society and just beliefs that get passed down. People have different relationships, and I'm very understanding of that the more I dive into the topic of money.
I love that. And even just with each of us doing, going on our journeys and our own ways of financial wellness and really just diving into what we genuinely want outside of any societal constructs, any programming, any religious beliefs, anything like that. Just going into our deep core and being like, okay, what is it that I genuinely want the most? And typically there is something in there that needs some level of resourcing. And so part of also why one of the pillars of financial of CPN is financial wellness is because I want to be able to have conversations with our community because we really do serve Black and Indigenous people here. Is really like, okay, how can we see money as the regenerative resource that it is and that it can be, and what can we build with that? And so I think just having these kinds of conversations of like, okay, we've done it for us like in a certain way for so long, and it hasn't worked in the sense of like us fulfilling what we want, on all levels of our life. Because, for example, like no one wants to work let me not speak for everyone. Most people don't want to work their entire existence slaving for somebody else's dream and vision. We have our own dreams. We just often feel like, hey, like I don't know where to start. I don't have the resources to do that. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that because it's important to have these conversations. The more we have these conversations, the more money talks. I just love that name. The more money talks we have, the less taboo it becomes. So I'm like, yo, I want to be wealthy. And I'm gonna affirm that. You want to be wealthy? Do you want to be
Exactly.
wealthy? Okay. Let's get it.
Exactly.
We can
And
do
I just had a conversation on Father's Day with a nephew of mine. He's 16 and he's going into the workforce, and he said to me, "I don't want to be rich." And I'm saying, "Why is that? What makes you think that?" And I think a lot of it had to do with the perceived evils that we see and hear so much about that you mentioned, where we see, people with money, and we always hear the 1% vilified. And I've listened to financial professors who really break this stuff down and talk about how it's ingrained in the programming and movies, the villains always the rich people. It's just like it's deep rooted, and we don't have enough time for it. But
it.
it's fascinating to me whenever I come across someone, whether it's a stranger or a family member or a friend, anyone who decides or has the nerve to say they don't want more resources to do the most that they can for their family.
That I love how you said that because literally, if you just say wealthy, like if you replace the word wealthy with that phrase that you said, and you ask people, hey, do you want to have more resources to do the things in the world that you want to do? Who's saying no?
I don't think anyone, right?
I love that. So, and speaking of resources, it's also like when we have challenging times in life, and money often helps us to maneuver through those aspects. So, I really want to ask you, you went through a really challenging time. You got divorced, and so how did that really spark your financial wellness journey to the next level? And what are some holistic money tips that you would give to someone who is going through a divorce or a big life change?
Yeah, it's a great question, love. It was one of the catalysts that really made me get my stuff together. And when I looked around and saw how much money that the divorce cost me, and I knew that I was still young enough to rebound, I didn't have a choice. Like I had to decide if I was going to, wallow in this and suffer, or pick myself up and really figure it out and put one foot in front of the other. And that's what I chose to do. And there's so much financial cost that comes with a divorce that most young people have no idea, that I had to learn the hard way. And so even things like my divorce, I've written about very candidly at Money Talks, because whether it's my daughter or someone else that I might be able to help with my experience share, that's important for me. I feel like that's a part of my assignment, to help others along the way. And I can't save anyone, or maybe, but I can help with my experience, my words of wisdom, and openly and honestly sharing. And so, it cost me a lot of money going through divorce, whether it was attorney fees or court costs or child support, alimony, dividing assets, all of these things no one wants to talk about when they're talking or thinking about marriage. But then half of the marriages in this country end in divorce. And if we don't talk about it and we don't know what we're preparing for and we find ourselves in it, there's really a real dark side to that, that I'm fortunate that I didn't fall into or stay into. And if I can help anyone else going through things like that, I'm always a resource, to be able to help people, whether they're going through divorce. It can lead to substance abuse. I've had my experience with that, and so that's also a very costly habit, that can be detrimental to you and your family. And so these things can all spiral out of control. And next thing you know, you could really have some hurt people around you. And so I've always wanted to be the best version of myself, and instilling that into Parker is always going to be my number one priority, because there's so many things that she has to prepare for, that we're not taught. And if we don't have these money talks openly and honestly, and the title money talks is more than just money. It's about the wellness and the overall well-being, as opposed to just finances. So that's really how it impacted me. Holistic tips I would share: just tracking your money, knowing where it's going, um, not falling into unhealthy habits, because those things can be a bleed or a drain on your bank account. And so you want to make sure that you know where your money is going first and foremost, and you're smart with it. If you can eat at home instead of eating out, that's a very, very basic thing you can do to save yourself some money. Subscriptions, I've written about subscriptions. Those things add up. I mean, if you just are mindful of how much money is going out, how much money is coming in, you're off to a great start.
Yes, the subscriptions be getting me, cause I think I'll cancel it, and then literally I'll look at the charge, and I'm like, "I thought I canceled that." That's a big one. You'll literally realize how much you save when you, like, chill out on the subscriptions, 'cause there's so many things we pay for that we forget we subscribe to, so I love that tip. And I feel like habits have been, like, a theme in this conversation, so I'm curious, in your opinion, what are maybe, like, 3 habits that really helped you go from, a lower point when you're going through all these challenges to, like, okay, I have it, I'm getting it together, I'm on this journey, I'm helping others. Like, what were those maybe 3 main habits that really helped you go from challenge and a lower point to where you're at now?
I would definitely start with just exercise, and it doesn't have to be a major routine, but doing something to get out, and get active. I think that is very important for you mentally, as much as physically. You need that mental clarity to know exactly how to deal with situations without being stressed out, without being overwhelmed, without being consumed by all of the problems. I love taking walks, and some of my people laugh at me for just loving walks. I mean, we grew up athletic and playing sports, things like that. I don't need any of that anymore. I love to take a good 45-minute walk.
I'm a
Um,
walker too, I'm right there with you.
so you understand completely. That just kind of resets me and recenters me and allows me to clear my head and think. So I definitely would start with exercise, whether it's a gym routine or walking or floor exercises it's at home. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't need an expensive gym membership, but you can pour into yourself, just through exercise and being active. A second thing I would say is reading. That's one thing that really opened my mind to the world, possibilities, new topics, new ideas. And so I replaced a lot of time wasters, whether it was television, video games, scrolling on social media, with audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube videos about financial literacy. And that really, really sparked a change in me. As for a third thing, I would say, let's see, exercise, reading, and tracking your money. Just making sure that you're on top of what's coming in, what's going out, and if you're being mindful with your resources and a good steward of it. That's how I like to think of it. Am I being a good steward of my resources?
You know, that's so funny that you just said that. I have literally been asking myself probably nonstop, like every day. I've literally been asking myself, am I being a good steward of my resources and opportunities? And just that question alone literally like it recenters you to be like, are you really doing the most with what you have? Because that a lot of the times we want more, we want more, we want more, but it's like, are we even stewarding properly what we currently have? It's like, are there other ways to optimize your paycheck or the money that you're getting right now? And I
Mhm.
think that's a really powerful habit and tip. And like, I suggest anyone to start asking yourself that every day, and it's made a difference in my life. Like, you'll be like, well, actually, I could do a little better, or I'm doing great, you know? So having those check-ins with self and then with your money too. That's a great tip.
For
I love.
sure. For sure.
And then so just piggybacking kind of off of this, what are some tangible resources, starting points, books, podcasts, or just any kind of resource for people that are like, yes, this sounds great. I really want to take a hold of my money story. I really want to get my budget and savings and finances together, but I just feel so lost. So what are some things that you would, share with them?
Of course, love, I would start with moneytalksmatter.com. We got to go to Money Talk and check us out there. We're putting 2 articles, 2 columns a week. Mondays and Thursdays is the current schedule. And so we're talking about these things in real life experiences, real life ways. So that would be the first thing, to see how everyday people are going about changing their lives for the better in a wide variety of ways, not just with money. But then I've also tapped into a lot of different influencers, a lot of different people who I don't even know. People like Wall Street Trapper, people like Earn Your Leisure, Rashad and Troy and Ian from Earn Your Leisure. You know, Xavier Miller from the Millionaire Mindsets podcast. I mean, these are all people. Ross Mack from
We listen
Maconomics
to the
here in
same.
Chicago. What'd you say?
We listen to some of the same podcasts. It's just funny to hear them. Yeah, they're
Yeah, and
great.
so these are all people that I have, studied, learned from, and I was a sports writer for most all of my career, and one income stream, working stiff, and I was focused so much on my job that I didn't make time for a side hustle. I didn't make time for understanding money. I was taught to just work hard at your job and you'll climb up the corporate ladder and those things. And so when I started diving into these different resources, I mentioned the books The Millionaire Next Door and The Psychology of Money earlier. Those were two of the first books that I read about money. I required my daughter to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think she was
What?
9 or 10 years old. It took her a while, but she ended up doing a book report on it and understanding it differently. And I know people have various takes on Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I love it for its foundational message of assets over liabilities. And so if you can just start to grasp that concept and track your money and know where it's going, I think from there, people will start spending a lot more money on assets as opposed to the liabilities.
Oh, talk about it. That's great. And honestly, 1,000%. I've either audio books or read most of Robert Kiyosaki's books. And I'm not gonna lie, that was the battery in my back that really helped me to like shift my mindset. Because I too, I mean, most of us grow up where it's like the job, the job, the job, the degree, the degree, the degree. And it's like the world is changing. The
Right.
jobs are like letting go of people. They're innovating to, replace workforce with AI. Not everyone, but, and it sounds scary, but we have to be really realistic and honest about where the world is headed and position ourselves to thrive and our communities to thrive no matter what's going on in the world. And that's why I feel like financial literacy is so important, because you don't like, I learned that the hard way of like having one income is just not where you want to be, because guess what? I got laid off, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm stressed, versus like, okay, if I knew what I know now back then, I would have been having my investments together. And, the journey takes you where it needs to because you learn what you need to learn. But I agree with Robert Kiyosaki too, because his books are also very like palatable and easy to understand, but with a lot of information. So,
It's interesting, love, that you talking about being laid off. I told you that I've been a working stiff. I've worked for 3 companies my entire career. I've been in the workforce for over 20 years now, and I'm incredibly fortunate that I've never had that experience.
wow, I'm
But
shook.
I've seen it happen to my colleagues several times, and I have friends to this day who've been laid off, and they do not like the company that they were laid off from. They have, real animosity against it, and I've had to process some of those interactions and encounters because I have to ask myself, how would I feel if a company that I, gave my heart and soul to just laid me off? But then the other side of me um, is the part that thinks, well, it was never your company.
Exactly.
And this is what they have a right to do whenever they want to do it. So it's up to us to protect ourselves from that real possibility that I've seen one too many times. Again, I'm very fortunate to have never experienced it. I feel like I've been playing with fire for 20 plus years with mostly having one income stream. But at the same time, this is what Money Talks is all about. This is how we prepare our next generation for the inevitable whenever a company decides you're redundant or we're going to downsize.
Yeah, it's so interesting too, to that point, because like someone like you who's been able to work in the same couple of jobs your whole life, it's like now it's like most of people my age and younger, they don't stay at a company for more than like 3 years. And especially with tech companies, I learned this because I've been laid off from multiple tech companies, and they have such a like yes, the pay is always pretty good at tech companies, but it's like that for a reason, because they're always innovating. They're always thinking about like, okay, how can we lower our margins? How can we, get to the next step? And a lot of the times that might include, your department being optimized. And it's like, when I think about it, especially as us, like we're, getting more into running our own businesses, when I think about it from that perspective, I honestly understand, because it's like if you have a business and you see that, hey, this can get better, we can do this, because that's what it is for them. It's them making the business better for what their goals are. And typically the goals of the business versus our own goals might be very different. And so finding that, like, the last job I had, the way I was thinking about it, I was like, my job is my investor. So instead of thinking about it like I'm going to give my whole existence to this job, it's like, no, like this is, we're serving each other in this moment in time, but that might not always be the case. So let me just see this, job as an investor, and let me use that. And so as we're kind of talking about investing, I would love to hear, maybe what is your favorite thing to invest in that people can maybe continually, while they're working at their job, while their job is their investor, can continually to put into that account or investment to help it grow for the next stage of their life?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in The Simple Path to Wealth. I would throw the name of that book, it goes by The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins on that resource list as well. It tells you how to become a millionaire with basic time on your side, and consistent investing and using a total stock market fund, to as your primary vehicle for that. And so that's what I wholeheartedly believe in. It took me a while to get there, love, because I was always, chasing penny stocks and things like that, and the exciting things that you hope would, 100x. But I'm a big believer in a total stock market fund. I put a lot of my money into VTI, the Vanguard index fund. So, I don't have to worry about, market volatility. I don't have to worry about risk as much. It's not the sexiest approach, but that's my favorite if you're asking for my favorite because it's hands off. I don't have to worry about it. And then there's other things that I can go have fun with.
I love that. That's great advice. And yeah, I also was invested in the Vanguard, and we'll get into this a little bit later when we bring Parker in, because that just made me think about, you know, different age groups, you have different risk tolerances. So someone that's 11, someone that's 28, and someone that's 45 will have different risk tolerances. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But I would love to bring on Parker. So we're going to stop this part of the segment, and then we're going to get into the conversation with all three of us. Okay, we are back for part two of this conversation. I'm super excited because we have Parker with us here. And the reason we have our cameras off is for safety purposes. You know, we got to protect the children. So we are going to have the conversation like this, but it's going to be a really beautiful and powerful conversation. So I'm so excited, Parker. Welcome to the show. Welcome to this episode. Thank you for being down to have this conversation. And I would love if you could start by, just introducing yourself, your name, your age, and maybe your favorite hobby.
Okay, I'm Parker Mayberry. My favorite hobby is drawing, reading, and coloring. I can never pick favorites. And, um, my favorite color would be cyan. It's a light blue, basically.
That's specific. That's a beautiful color. Yes. Okay, that's awesome. And so I know that your dad told me your mission is really to help the earth. And how do you feel that you can help the earth by really helping others to get smarter with money?
Um, they'd be more responsible with their money, and they wouldn't just spend it away in that sort of way. Because I know how my dad sometimes is saying he's helping an earth helper by doing using money talks and helping other people. So I feel like that's how I feel like how we can help people with money.
And I just wanted to say that you're you're already helping people just from you and your dad having conversations on money talk. So it's pretty cool that you're already achieving your mission so young.
Thank you.
So, yeah, it's really awesome. So, I'm curious, when your dad first was telling you, like, hey, we're going to kind of go on this financial literacy journey and like introducing you to these different topics that you may not learn in school. What was kind of your reaction? How did you feel? Were you like, oh, like I'm a kid, I don't care, or I don't want to learn about this? And then you got into it after? Or was it like, "Oh, this is excited. I would love to get into it." I'm curious kinda your experience there.
I was 8 years old, so I was pretty much like, we already do this enough, and you talk about it 50 million times. I'm tired of this. I just want to play. I want to be a kid. But later, my dad took me into a podcast, and I was very excited. I think I was 9 by then, and it's a documentary, it feels like, on my life and each thing we talk about, so kind of got into it more after the podcast.
So really it was kind of the like media, the like more creative side of like talking about money through like a documentary that really got you like, okay, like I want to actually talk about this more.
Yes.
And how do you see yourself continuing, even with when it's just like as you get older, like do you see yourself continuing to kind of share and talk about money in these different kinds of ways or through in artistic ways? Like is it have you thought about that? I'm so curious about because you're very creative. So I'm so curious about your like what ways you see that going into your own creativity and like also talking about money.
Um, hmm, I want to be a YouTuber. I've always wanted to be a YouTuber for as long as I can remember. So I think that would be another thing I could put my artistic passion into it and still talk about money and do other things I would want to do with it. So I feel more comfortable doing that, but and I can't put my picture up there yet. So I had to wait till I'm like, did you say 13 or 12? I don't remember.
13.
Tier. No, 13.
You're almost there, and that's pretty cool because it's like you already have so much, like, you're so confident, you already have so much practice before then. So by the time you're old enough to get on YouTube, oh, you're gonna excel because it's like not new to you. I mean, the video part would be new, but the actual like having the conversation. So that's pretty awesome. So I would love to hear about, your journey together with your dad and how have you seen him change since starting Money Talks and how has that financial journey really impacted your bond together?
Um, there's this time when I was younger, I would wake up earlier than my dad. This was before this whole money extravaganza. There was when we would just I would wake up, I would have the courage to wake him up to ask to watch some TV or previous kids to watch and then eat because he would sleep in and but then there would be some troubles with his money and then he would start teaching me how to be more careful with it from the time when I was really young and I was just scared to wake him up and to the fact where he woke up on his own and did the 5 a.m. club and he helped me wake up earlier. I don't want to wake up either.
I love that. And so with that journey, what what does a healthy relationship with money mean to you? Like what does that mean to you? What does that look like for you, especially since you've been learning about it at such a young age?
To me, I feel you have to invest some, at least 50 or 40%. You can save some just for a spending day or and then spend some for not for needs or just wants. Because 'cause I'm a kid, I don't really have my needs are covered, so I have just some wants that you can spend sometimes and not overdo it.
Wow, not overdo it. I mean, man, that I wish I had that concept when I was your age. 'Cause literally, I would get my money for Christmas and I'm like, okay, I need all the dolls that I can afford with this $30. I'm like, wow, I never thought about, oh, maybe I should put some away for a rainy day. Like my parents would do it before they would even give me the money. They would do it for me, but it's a whole different thing to like give your child or the younger person the full amount and teach them how to do it for themselves, which is really, really powerful. And I heard that you invested in Roblox and you knew that it was going to be something. So I'm so curious, what made you think that and what made you want to invest in that?
I have Roblox, on my on one of my devices at my mom's house, and so I would play it, and my dad brought me into investing, and so he said he the first lesson he really taught me after buy low, sell high was to invest in things that you know would like you use. Like he would use Nike, so he would invest in Nike. The first thing I thought of was Roblox because I would love playing Roblox. It's a fun game, and so I thought of investing in it. And currently, I have 2 shares. I keep wanting to buy more, but there's never a good time to buy. Very unfortunate. But the Roblox, it went. I've held for more than a year. So I've held for more than a year, and it's gone really, really high in the hundreds by now. And I keep holding on to it. My dad's like, "Sell it, sell it, sell it." I'm like, "No."
The fact that, like, you had the intuition and the knowing based on, a principle that your dad taught you of like, "Okay, this is something that I use and that I like." And it's funny because the day before I had met with your dad to discuss this podcast, or not even the day before, maybe an hour before, I was listening to this podcast about, what, what this really wonderful and big, hedge fund woman was investing in and what she thought was like really good investments, and she said Roblox, and I was like, "Oh, that's so funny." And then I started looking into it. I mean, obviously, like you said, it's a little late right now for me to get into it. I would want a dip, but it's just so funny that it's like, "No, you knew. You were ahead of the game." So that's pretty that it's like cool to see when the principles are instilled, when the information is instilled, how people can go and do their own thing, and you're only going to get better at investing with time. So
Thank you.
I'm excited for you for that. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Thank you. I wanna be, I wanna start doing options like my dad, but
What? Okay, I would love for that's incredible. I would love for you to maybe share a little bit from your understanding of what options is, because maybe a lot of people who are listening to this don't know what options trading is. So maybe if you could share a little bit about that, because that is incredible. I do some options as well, and it's fun, but it's complex. So I'm curious the fact that you even know about it. I would love to hear, how you would explain it, briefly.
I would say following a pattern, I would do I'm still confused if it's a put or call. I think a put is you think it's gonna go high and then low, and then a call is when you think it's gonna go high. That's my understanding of it, and then you have 100 for 1 share for 1 share for
One
1,
con
contract, thank you. You get 100 shares of it, and so it has a due date you have to get it by, you have to sell it by, and that's really all I know. I'm still learning it.
Wow. I am shook. I am shook. Like that I literally started learning about options maybe late last year. Like I had no concept of it prior to then. I mean, I heard of it, but I never paid attention. So, and that was such a great explanation. Like that's literally what it is, like on the grander picture of it. So, wow, yeah, you got it. You gonna be you gonna be wealthy for real. I'm like, I might have to call you to borrow some money to loan me something. You about to be a bank. Um, so with that being said, what is one piece of advice that you would give to another kid around your age who knows nothing about money or investing, but maybe wants to?
You get money, what's the first thing you think of? Probably buying something. You should the first thing you should really think of is saving it really in investing so you can have more for the next day you want to spend something. So if you're a kid, I say 50-50 investing and then save the other 50% because there's other ways you can use money.
That's brilliant because also, especially when you're a kid and you don't have no bills, so you don't have to give that money to, things. So you can really make it work in your favor. You can really, compound it. There's a quote, who said it? I don't know if it's someone famous, but they were like, "Compounding is the eighth wonder of the world." Because it's like, imagine by the time you hit my age and you have these investment accounts that are compounding annually every day, imagine just off of because of time being on your side, how much those accounts will grow. So the fact that, like, yes, if your friend, let's say, who's never, hasn't started yet, gets that advice, by the time, they're older too, they'll be like thanking you so much.
I
So
remember the first time I had a I my dad gave me a credit card and we went into shop for something. When I went to It's Sugar, I completely forgot about taxes because something was like, I don't know, $20 probably. And when it showed like 20.99 or something, I was like, wait, what is going on? Huh? And then my dad had to teach me about taxes again. So that's also another thing.
that's another thing. Oh, taxes are something, but they're always there. They're like a shadow that always follows you. So you always got to pay them. So that's good. And so now, you're on summer break, school is out. What are some things that you're looking forward to doing the most this summer?
Since school's not in session at all, I get to chill, do stuff on my own time, wake up on my own, eat on my own, and I get to do stuff with friends that I wouldn't usually do on a school day. So, and I get to stay up later, hopefully, ish.
Oof, that sounds like a good time. Just living freely.
Freedom.
Literally freedom. Yes, that's what summer is for. It's for freedom, leisure, joy, and then hobbies.
Doing what you want to do best.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we begin to wrap up, thank you so much for just sharing so much. You're honestly brilliant. So, I know the audience is really going to enjoy this. They're definitely in for a treat. So, I hope y'all are enjoying it.
It went by so fast. I was very sad, but I'm glad to be on here.
Yes, listen, you are always welcome back. You are always welcome back. I'm happy to keep having conversation, but we still have one more question that is for all of us actually, cuz I feel like it's really cool and it's really fun that we all are growing up at in different times and different we all grew up in different time periods, and life has, things have been pretty different, for each time of us. You grew up in a different era, I grew up in a different era, and then your dad did too. So maybe we can each talk about the challenges and the benefits that we have experienced or are experiencing coming up in different eras, especially when it comes to money or our financial wellness journey. So I'll leave it up to Darnell to start, and then Parker can go, and then I can go.
Okay, sure. I think for me, I'm 42 years old. I'll be 43 at the end toward the end of this year. And so I was an early 80s baby, and I've seen the world evolve. And technology is the biggest advancement that I can easily point to. There's so much technology that exists now that did not exist when I was Parker's age. There's technology that exists now that didn't exist when I was your age, love. And so having to navigate that world and see the changes, I've seen dips in the market, in the economy. I've seen changes in technology that, again, I was so busy working my jobs that I didn't make time to understand what was happening and take advantage of those moments and opportunities that presented themselves when they did happen. And so, um, just for me, being an early 80s baby, knowing that I didn't maximize so many opportunities that presented themselves. I would just encourage anyone listening to this in a younger generation to do a deep dive on topics that are important to you. For me, that's money. It was important for me to study money after learning the hard way. It's important for me to study inflation after being on the wrong side of it for so many years, all my life. Um, it's important for me to study Bitcoin as a form of new money that's and new technology that's coming in. It's, instead of ignoring new technologies like I had in the past. So uh, the older I get, the more mature and wiser I become. It's easier for me to understand these things and to see these patterns play out. And um, I have to learn them sometimes because I'm playing catch up. But I look at your generations and I see, the world at your fingertips, that you all have amazing opportunities with so many resources, with so much technology, that I'm excited to see where the future is. And I'm finally, willing to keep pace with people like Parker at 11 years old. He's teaching me things that I don't know. And hopefully it stays that way for a long time, that I'll always be an open, willing learner, open minded person and a willing learner.
Uh, I say a challenge is going with the flow. My generation grew up with technology, so it's kind of easier, but it's kind of patience, I guess, because when you're teaching someone who doesn't know technology as well as you do, or as well as the next person, is you have to use patience because you have they don't understand, but when you do understand, it's helpful because you can help a great community and with what you know and your knowledge.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, these are honest, powerful reflections. And it it just makes me think of, with each generation, we kind of have different, although we've all caught up to being in the same kind of space, of innovation, of technology, of things changing. It really comes down, a lot of it, to like our perspectives and perceptions and what we do with that, I feel like. So like, for example, I talk to my dad, and my dad is 70 now, and he always tells me, because I'll tell him about crypto. I love crypto. I am a crypto girly. It is very far off on the risk curve. It's like, if you are risk averse, stay away from crypto. So I'll tell him about it. And granted, he's made some money off of XRP a couple years ago. Oh, well, when he invested a couple years ago, when I invested for him a couple years ago. And it's kind of this interesting dichotomy of being like reflecting onto one another, of like, okay, this is what I know. Here, try this out. And then the person of the other generation sharing what they know, and us kind of all figuring it out together. But my dad always says, he's always like, you know, that's I'm gonna take my XRP out. I'm gonna cash out. I understand that it'll, get more and more, but I'm older. I'm not as risk tolerant as you. You're young. You can take a lot more risks than, me, because now he's retired now, so he's on a fixed income. And it just makes me think of like, oh, it makes sense. Like, now is the time for me, as I'm wanting to build wealth and to grow to the next phase of my life, of like going in on things that might seem a little bit more risky. But Robert Kiyosaki also says something that I find interesting, which is that what makes something risky is really the lack of knowledge and not the specific asset. And ever since I heard that, I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So I like study up a lot more on things prior to. And then I realized, okay, like I understand why crypto is off the risk curve for most people. It's because it's such a new asset in comparison to others. And we really, it's now just being accepted and being, getting interest and support from governmental institutions. And so I think one of the really large benefits is that, like you said, the world is our oyster. Like me and Parker and you too, because you're still very young, we're just different levels of young. It's like we get to choose what we want to do. Like it's all available to us. And if we do the work, we can really figure it out. So I think that's kind of what has been my mentality of like, yeah, there's a lot of information. Sometimes it's information overload and you're like, well, what do I do? Which one do I go with? And so I think that's the challenge. It's like a double-edged sword. And so, yeah, I think it's really amazing though that we get to all within our own perspectives figure it out and decide what's best for each one of us. And that might look different for all of us.
That
And
is beautiful. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, love. I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, you're good. I was gonna honestly turn it back to you and ask you, to close us out, what's next for you? What's next for the both of you? And how can folks really connect and support the work that you're doing? Because it's really powerful and really important.
Parker, what's next for you?
Um, getting more robust. Uh, I'm trying to do more money talks columns. Maybe I've only done 2 out of the 250 that in total that has been created, or 251 now, and being more focused and disciplined.
That's beyond money.
I love that. Holistic.
Yeah. So we're that the same with me, continuing to grow money talks. And the simple path to wealth, a lot of it is going to be consistency and mundane, boring stuff. Just being consistent with our investing, being consistent with our columns that we put out each week, and trying to enhance the product that we deliver to people, and continuing to raise this little girl. She's going to sixth grade next year, and we're excited to continue to see her grow and learn and develop. And yes, focus and discipline is two of the things that she's learning just right along with money. So we're excited to be on this journey together, and we're thrilled that you had us on, love. And I love that last question that you hit us with, because one of my favorite quotes is learn from the mistakes of others, because life is too short to make them all yourself. And so the fact that we have 3 generations here learning from each other, I think that's awesome. I think that's really awesome.
Oh, I am not little.
I said 3 generations learning from each other. I didn't say anything about little.
You said a little girl at one point.
I did?
Yes.
If I did, I apologize.
It's all right.
We know, Parker, you're brilliant. You're like, I have just this conversation. I'm honestly so grateful for the both of you because just talking to both of y'all, I have learned so much. And I'm like, oh, this is powerful to hear the perspective of what it looks like when you pour into younger generations, different generations at an early age and what they really do with it. Cause you're literally flying. Like it's just really beautiful. So I'm so excited to continue to watch y'all's journey. Everyone tap in, definitely follow them, subscribe to Money Talks. Like it's just a really powerful platform and they're only getting better. So thank you so much for your time, y'all. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.